Good evening, everyone. I'm Scott Lambert, and I'd like to call to order the April 12th, 2023 East Whiteland Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Apologize for the late start. We were in executive session. But if you would please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce everyone to our attendees here at the table. To my far left is Steve Brown, and next to me is Bernadette Kearney, our solicitor, and to my right is Vice Chair Rich Orlo and Peter Fixler. Starting off, we had executive sessions April 12th for legal, personnel, and real estate issues. And moving on, Steve, would you like to give a little intro here or background, or would you like me to introductions?
I'm happy to do it. It doesn't matter to me, Scott.
Okay. I guess I'll, tonight we're introducing our new assistant manager, Catherine Ricardo, who comes to us with over 10 years experience working in local government and holds a master's degree in public administration from Westchester University. She recently worked for East Vincent Township as manager and zoning officer. Prior to that, she worked for Edgemont Township in Delaware County, also as the township manager and zoning officer. In her spare time, in her time spent in East Vincent and Edgemont, she helped serve and helped secure over $1.5 million in grant funding for public sewer improvements and planning and construction for 2 township parks. She also assisted in rewriting the zoning ordinances, which is a fun project we have on our agenda coming up. She was involved with the comprehensive plan, comprehensive park and recreation, and open space plans for both communities that she was in. Catherine lives in Westchester with her husband and 3 children, and has now a much shorter commute to work. So we expect long hours. Peter, Rich, any questions, any comments?
No, we look forward, we welcome you and look forward to working with you.
Welcome.
Any comments? No.
Just to say that we're very happy to have Catherine here. As Scott said, she's very experienced and impressed us in the interview process, and she's already jumping in. She started on Monday, and she's already jumping in and helped solve a problem today that I wasn't familiar with. So her experience is already paying off. So welcome to Catherine, and happy that you're here.
Happens when you jump from meeting to meeting. Under board briefings, number 2C, I wanted to talk about grant applications. One of the areas that township is putting together is a good financial plan, and the townships are in such a situation where there's not a lot of flexibility to revenue sources and ability to make changes like in the private sector. So one of the areas that we focus on is the grant process, and we wanted to bring to light to everyone the process that we've been going through and some of the projects that we've been doing for the grants. But as we started to look at it in the last couple days, it's been pretty comprehensive. So we will be beginning next month to put together a comprehensive list, and we'll be talking about the different grants that we have had and where we are at this point in time. So that will be something that we'll talk in more detail next month. Going to be winging it. Next on the agenda is our sewer sale, and maybe John can give us an overview.
Mr. Chairman, nothing new at this time. Our projected timeline from the attorney for our project is sometime between August of this year through February of next year. We're at the mercy of Commonwealth Court, which sets their own dock. That's all I have. I'm going to stand up here because there's maybe another topic.
Next, I wanted to give an update on the Route 30 corridor project. As you know, one of our larger projects that we've planned for coming years is to improve the connectivity and the safety on the Route 30 corridor spur. And in part and parcel to that, we have applied for a federal grant request in the tune of about $25 million. The submission was placed with Washington in February 28th, and we'll find out on June 28th of this year the outcome on it. We have scheduled a meeting. The race committee has scheduled a meeting with the U.S. Department of Transportation and hopefully with Pete Buttigieg in May, and then we will also be visiting some of the important government officials that have been involved with this project to help us try to get this grant, which is highly competitive, but that's where we are at this point in time. So we're kind of wait and see at this point.
I have nothing further to add.
And John, pertaining to the master plan?
Yeah, actually, Jerry Gorski's here from Gorski Engineering, and I'll turn it over to Jerry. It's been a few months since we had an update on this.
Good evening. With respect to the plans, the first step still is a recording of the record plan for the land development, and the necessary step there is the NPDES permit. The NPDES permit requires the sanitary sewer piece to be approved by DEP. So Arrow is working on sign-offs to the sanitary sewer design from East Whiteland, Tredyffrin, and Valley Forge Sewer Authority. How do you have any update on that?
We've gotten signed off on two of the municipalities or authorities, and we've got a couple more signatures, and then once that's done, we can submit to DEP.
Thank you. And on the building plans, as of the end of March, the architectural plans are 50% complete. Structural plans, 25% complete. Mechanical and electrical plans, 50% complete. We held a meeting, the design team, planning team held a meeting toward the end of March, and our next steps are to put budgets to furniture, fixtures, and equipment. So we have those plans out to various vendors that are CoStar or Sourcewell vendors, and we should have numbers for you to plug into the budget in about the next 3 weeks. We should have numbers on furniture, fixture, and equipment. Also, any questions on public safety building? Okay. Also, some improvements yet to do on this building with respect to access. And a lot of the materials that are needed are in, but the bullet-resistant materials aren't going to be in till possibly late June, early July. And we think it best to do that install all at once so that we're not interrupting staff multiple times. And we will keep you appraised. We did just check yesterday, make sure everything's still tracking, but obviously that bullet-resistant material is a little scarce right now. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda is a status update on the Route 2930 beautification project. This is the concrete diamond shape on 29 and 30 that is going to get torn up and replaced with some attractive landscaping. And we met on March 23rd with the winner of the bid, and it was going to begin on the following week, which I see that it has not happened yet. John, Neil, have you got an update from It's Al's fault, huh? What engineering problem have you created now?
No engineering problem, just
Okay.
a scheduling issue. They're finishing up another project before they come out to this one. And what I was told was they're looking at starting this coming Monday, so 24th, or 17th.
Okay, great. It should only take, about 4 to 5 days, maybe a week at the most?
They estimated a week to 10 days maximum.
Okay, now up to 10 days, so there might be a little bit of a...
Weather permitting, that is leeway there.
Okay. Great, thanks. At this point in time, we'll go into public hearings, and I'll turn over the mic to Bernadette Kearney.
Good evening. I just wanted to check if the court reporter is virtually present. Yes. Okay. He is.
We are.
All right, at this point, the public hearing is opened. We are going to continue this on the record again to the next regularly scheduled public meeting of May 10th, 2023. And I'd ask for a motion from the board to continue this on the record to the regularly scheduled meeting on May 10th, 2023.
Motion to continue till May 10th.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye.
If anyone is in the audience for this public hearing, that means because we continued on the record to a date certain, you will not get another notice in the mail if you received notice back for the prior meeting in March. Again, this was continued on the record from March to April, now April to May. So you won't get notice in the mail, but this is the notice that you'll receive. And I do believe Zach does also put it on the website of the township. Thank you.
Donna, remind me to bring sunglasses next month. I'm getting a sunburn. Chris Yeager, you have a halo over your head. You're looking godly. To board motions and resolutions. Zach, would you like to lead us on this situation?
Sure. So the first item here is the consideration of an offer of dedication for public improvements for two ongoing projects that are currently going through transition from the developer to the homeowners association. One is the Reserve at Great Valley on Flat Road. This is a Toll Brothers project. And the other is the Great Valley Crossing project on neighborhood, I should say. No longer a project, now a neighborhood on Church Road. We've received an offer of dedication specifically for the roadways. One of the things, so we've received drafts of the deeds of dedication that outline what's to be dedicated, what's not to be dedicated. We are currently reviewing those with our township engineer and solicitor to confirm that only the cartway improvements, so the curb and the facilities inbound of the curb, so the curb, the paved roadway, and the corresponding storm sewer within the roadway are what's being offered. I don't think the township is willing to consider acceptance of storm sewer facilities and other facilities outside of the curb. So we'll be reviewing those with the solicitor prior to the next month's meeting where a formal motion would be on. What I think would be best for this evening is to get sort of the board's, I'll say, appetite for accepting these roads. With that said, I think one thing the board may want to consider is an extended maintenance period for the roadway, given some of the settlement issues, some of the sinkhole formation that's occurred at both projects actually over the last couple of years. So sort of with that, I'll turn it over to the board if there's any feedback. I think what we'd be looking for tonight is sort of a, yes, let's proceed with reviewing these deeds of dedication and the corresponding documents, and then to have something on the May meeting for a formal action if all of those aspects are sort of satisfied.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm okay with the concept of accepting dedication. What I think is a reasonable compromise between the sinkhole issue and overall the history of the properties is to accept dedication of the cartway. That would not include the curbing. The curb would be excluded. Curb, sidewalks, stormwater basins would not be included. Water, sewer lines would not be included. My understanding is those are being dedicated to Aqua. I would also suggest that our acceptance is a condition that Aqua completes their dedication of the water and sewer. And on the maintenance period, the bond, I guess I would throw out there and propose, in light of the history of sinkholes, a 5-year period.
Sure. So I know the developer's legal counsel is here. I'm not sure if he can weigh in on the bond aspect. I guess my suggestion would be Lou can certainly weigh in.
Sure.
I guess we're considering both of these items sort of together because they both involve really the same issue. So I'll speak to both of them. As for the extension of the maintenance bond period, I'll go back to the client, obviously, and talk to them about that. I understand the request. I think 5 years is going to, I'll hold the phone out like that a little bit and see if I can bring the phone a little bit closer in the conversation. As for the dedication of what you want and what you don't want, that's fine. I think we've tried to be particular in the draft documents that we prepared. If we can be more particular, I'm sure Bernadette will let us know. The sidewalk, as I understand it, is situated within the right-of-way, but the documents, the HOA documents specifically provide, and the deed of dedication could provide this as well, that it's going to be the responsibility to maintain those sidewalks of the homeowners association. So that's a technicality, whether it's in what you accept, whether it's outside of what you accept. I understand the message is that you don't want any responsibility as a township for it. As with most of the jobs told does, the sidewalk is the responsibility of the HOA after transition. So why don't we go over the documents that we sent, talk about the maintenance bond, and hopefully, all I want to hear tonight is whether the board is receptive to the offer of dedication. Because if they're not, that's okay too. If there's not going to be dedicated, then it's going to have to be owned and maintained by the HOA. But I think municipal ownership was what was determined or based, or what we based the plans on when they were prepared and filed with the township.
A couple comments from my side is that just for everyone from the development understands that the dedication of the roads, it's not a policy, it's more of a common sense review by the board in terms of looking at each development specifically and the criteria surrounding it. For example, Atwater and Knickerbocker are two developments where we are not taking dedication of roads. Flat Road has always been a concern of pertaining to sinkholes way back from the beginning. Its proximity to the quarry makes it very problematic to potentially greater likelihood of a sinkhole occurring. And that's one of the reasons why I recommended, and the board had agreed back when that development was being approved, to specifically have a disclosure in the HMO and the closing documents that there are sinkhole issues in that particular area. And I don't know if it ever made it in there, but there is a rider that can be purchased for sinkhole coverage. I don't live far from you folks, and I end up having that rider myself. It's a little costly, but I'd rather have it. So we've encountered other roads in the township that has been taken care of by the township, and it is a costly endeavor. But I think we have a common sense solution here to this in terms of what Zach was talking about. And so that's my commentary. Peter, I know you had some thoughts on it, I think.
My thoughts were just that we would take the cartway of the two developments, just curb from inside the curb. That's all I have.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll be back in May.
Lou, just a quick question. The deeds of dedication that were proposed and provided, they're just the cartway to the inside of the curb. They don't include the curb?
I think so, but I
Okay.
could be corrected on that, and if it doesn't, they can be modified accordingly.
Yeah, because, so they can be modified so they won't include the curb?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah, I just want to, I think the idea is the curb would be part of the dedication because it does serve sort of a functional aspect of directing drainage to the inlets, and that the inlets and the pipes would also be accepted. Is that what the board is anticipating? Basically, the curb, the road, and the storm sewer within the road, but not the items outside of the curb?
Again, subject to Aqua approving.
Well, there's two different issues here. I mean, I think what Zach is saying is correct. I was curious myself as to how you would accept dedication of just the cartway and not the curb, since that's an integral part of the support mechanism of the cartway and the stormwater drainage. Aqua isn't taking the stormwater management portion of the site. They have nothing to do with that. They're taking the public water infrastructure, correct? That's what Aqua is taking.
They would, if they haven't already, take the water service.
That's correct.
And the sanitary sewer has been offered to them, and I understand that that process is ongoing. But that is not, we directed them to offer the dedication directly to Aqua because of the pending sale of the sewer system. We're not considering acceptance of this sanitary sewer.
The other area I just want to point out, Lou, is just that, and for everyone from the development, is that being in the insurance business, I'll point out that the initial location of the breach would be the key wording. In other words, if a sinkhole started in your front lawn and expanded into the roadway, into between the curbs or at the curb, depending on how it is, that is not our liability because the initial cause or location was outside of the scope of the coverage. Just to make that clear.
I don't disagree with that. I analogized it when I heard about that was an issue. I could think back in instances where there were trees on private properties, and I've come across this. It's analogous in many respects, where somebody has a tree and the root system goes underneath the publicly dedicated road, causing damage to the road. Well, it's the guy who owns the tree whose responsibility is, and this, I think, in its simplest terms, is really that same analogy. That if the origin of the problem occurs on private property, and it's like any other legal issue, that's your problem. The township didn't cause it.
Are there, let me ask one question. Are these developments, I've ridden through, but I've ridden my bike through, car through, I totally forget, is between the curb and the sidewalk, is there a grass strip? They call it a verge, I think?
I don't know. I mean, there is?
There is, okay. So that would also clearly be, if we accept dedication of the curb, we would not be accepting dedication of the grass strip or anything.
Yeah, and I would think the HOA would want their own landscaping business to take care of that anyway, not the township. No problem.
Okay. Sure. Any questions? If you can come up to the mic and give us your name. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Kedar Gokhale. I live in the Great Valley Reserve community. My question was to Zach specifically. If I understand correctly, you will do your paperwork this month, and in May there will be a motion to either accept or not accept whatever, wherever we draw the line. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we're currently discussing now. If the board is open to that, that's what we will target for the May meeting, to have everything kind of bundled up and then a formal action to take place, whereas this is more just are we cleared to do that kind of thing?
I mean, if you know, how do we find out about Aqua, or maybe that's told, like if they have accepted, because I heard that you will not accept until they have accepted.
Right, yeah, that's a toll question. Okay. As I understand it, the offer's been made. They've been going through, I believe, some of the inspection process associated with that.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you very much.
Don, any questions on Zoom?
No, there are not.
Any other questions? And I guess we have a plan.
This is Gopi. I have one question. Basically, the Aqua brought by Township, right? Why Aqua is need to approve? Because you guys dedicated like water and sugar is to Aqua, and Aqua, if they won't take it, then who will own it? Right? That's the problem is.
Yeah, I believe the way the agreements are set up is that any common element, anything that's not accepted by the township, becomes a common element of the HOA. So if Aqua, for whatever reason, I don't anticipate, does not accept the sanitary sewer, Lou, correct me if I'm wrong, would then become, the responsibility would be property of the homeowners association.
Yeah, I think that boat has sailed with Aqua. I should have had that answer for you tonight, where they stand with that, but I will get you that answer. I can't envision a scenario where they're not taking dedication of it. Actually, dedication's the wrong word. You just sell it to them. You give them a bill of sale. But everything was done to their spec. Everything was prepared to their spec, and that's the business they're in now. So,
agreed.
I'd be shocked.
They acquired the sewer system. Yeah. That's a component of the sewer system, so confirm it, but I agree with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Moving on. Greg, if you can give us some information on our appointment of acting captains.
Later last year, we did a captain and an acting captain promotional test that consisted of a written test that candidates had to pass with a score of 70% or higher, and then we did an assessment center that it was evaluated by third-party fire chiefs from surrounding communities. I have 3 candidates tonight that have passed the written test and the assessment center that I recommend to the board to formally appoint them as acting captains. They're Daniel Matthews, Christopher Plumley, and Cody Gable.
So at this point in time, can we have a motion to accept appointment?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint as acting captains Daniel Matthews, Christopher Plumley, and Cody Gable.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Appointment confirmed.
Mr. Chairman, do you want me to give you an update on that life safety inspection program as well?
Yes, that's great. Thank you. Good.
Back in February, the Board of Supervisors approved a life safety inspection program in the township where fire department personnel goes around and inspects all the commercial properties within East Whiteland Township. We have upwards of 1,300 commercial properties within the township, and we go out and do a life safety inspection of each property, and it consists of looking at exit signage, looking at fire alarm systems, sprinkler systems, egress lighting, exit doors that are blocked, basically for the safety of our community and also the firefighters that are in these facilities. We started this in mid-February, so just to give you an update of where we stand. At the end of March, we completed 75 life safety inspections, 67 initial inspections, 8 re-inspections. We noted 55 violations during those inspections, and we spent 102 hours doing these inspections. The top 5 violations have been egress and emergency lighting, exit doors blocked, fire sprinkler systems not inspected and tested annually, fire alarm systems not inspected and tested annually, and sprinkler rooms that weren't identified or were full of clutter, causing a access issue. So when we're in these businesses, we're educating the community on what services we provide, and all the business owners to date have been very receptive of this program. Every shift gets assigned 10 inspections to complete per month. So at the pace that we're on, we're hopefully going to get through at least half of the commercial properties this year, with a goal next year to get to every single one. Thank you.
Greg, thanks. That's a great program, and I'm glad we're able to implement it successfully. Moving on to 4C. Steve, can you give us an overview on the ASME contract?
Sure. It's just going to be a very broad, very broad, simple overview, but this actually should be a ratification action because the contract was signed earlier this week. We had the signing ceremony, as it were. It's really just getting together and signing the document with the AFSCME representatives and staff and Scott. The negotiations took place over maybe 6 months, from last fall and into the beginning of this year. And I would characterize it as going well. Naveen and John Nagel led the negotiations. I also participated in. It was a 4-year contract, and I would describe it as a win for both AFSCME employees and for the township.
Okay, any questions? Donna? Can I make a motion to ratify the contract?
Sure, I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's official.
So next item is, next 2 items actually are request by the Historical Commission for some ongoing projects they've been working on. We have Jeff Dorr here, who's the chair of our Historical Commission. I'm going to cue up his presentation, his slides. I'm trying to multitask and failing, but Jeff, I'll let you kick it off.
Okay, so first I want to do a quick plug, and that is that if you look out in the front foyer there, you'll see a rack which has our quarterly newsletters for the historical buildings and historical sites in the township. So those are free for taking. They're also online. Just a couple of examples there.
And for everyone out there who doesn't know, Jeff Dorr is our Historical Committee Chairman, who has been involved for many years and was the driver behind the installation of the water wheel 2 years ago.
Thank you. Okay, you can see the Gunkel's Mill. It's one of the most iconic buildings in the township. You can go to the second slide, Zach. It's a 1793 grist mill. Great Valley was the breadbasket for this area, and in fact, breadbasket for Philadelphia and a greater area. And the grist mills, which were grinding the corn, the grain, the rye, and the wheat, were very, very important in that aspect. We had two sizable projects that have been done at that mill. The mill is actually owned by the township. And the first was to stabilize and repair the building structure so that we have a sound building. That was completed some years ago. And as explained, we did the installation of a working water wheel, which actually drives the gear structure inside of the building. And we spent about $150,000 on that, which was our budget. The situation right now and our problem is that we don't have handicapped access to the building. So that prevents us from having events using the facility with the public. And so that's really what this project is about. We need to do it in a way that will meet the ADA, which is the Disability Act. Americans with Disability Acts, that we have to meet their requirements. At the same time, we want to keep the nature and character of the 1793 historic building at the same time. Zach, can you show the floor plan for what it is that, just really quickly to give you an idea of what the project is? If you look on the, basically, that's the mill right there, the big rectangle is right there. On the right-hand side is Moore's Road, just to give you some orientation. So the basic project has 2 or 3 key pieces. First, yep, we'll do it. The project has several key pieces. The building is built into the side of a hill. So what that means is the building was set up to have access on a first and second floor. And those are the 2 floors that have the most interesting activity, and they're the ones that we want to open. So what we're talking about doing is you'll see 2 cross-hatched areas on the drawing, and each of those is a landing area. That's a place where a wheelchair, a van can pull up next to it and offload a wheelchair onto those small patios. One of the challenges to assure that there's a good structure under the patio and that they stay smooth so that a wheelchair can roll without difficulty over a long term there. On the one that's shown to the bottom of the drawing, the ground is fairly level there, and it goes into the building, and that's where all the gear works and workings of the mill are. And so the second phase of the project, along with that landing, is to make it level, and you have a certain amount of pitch you can put to the ground so that the wheelchair can function well in there. So that's the second. And then the last part of the project is on the right side there, and that is first a landing area, and then second we will have a wooden ramp that will be stained. We think will fit into the character of the building. These landing areas, we're going to be using concrete pavers as a surface, and the ones we'll use will look almost identical to bricks. So the concrete pavers give you a good firm flat structure, but it'll look as if it's a brick patio. And bricks were used in this era more commonly in Philadelphia than out here in Chester County, but even in this area, bricks are common for that age of building. So that landing area. So the project, if you can go back to the slides. So the next slide. So the project has, as I described up there, those main elements that are there. One of the things we did was we met twice with Mark Moses to assure that he's our code officer, so that we were sure to feel comfortable that we were meeting the code. Mark's reviewed that, and he's comfortable with what our plan is. We were fortunate because there's a fair amount of work going on and contractors are tough to find 3 really good contractors who were willing to bid on the project. Prices are remarkably close together, so that's good news. And the proposal by Dooley Pine, if you can turn to the next slide, was the best of the proposals by far, and since the price is almost basically the same, the quality of the proposal, the detail of the proposal, their knowledge, we're very confident that they can deliver on the project and do it in the budget in the way we want to have it done. So what we're seeking for today is approval by the board to go ahead with the Dooley Pine to award that contract and continue to execute it. As additional information, I just wanted to point out first that we have to do the ramp and a little bit of stone work, which is about $6,000 of additional work that will need to be done after we complete this first phase of work. And then in addition also is just to think about what benefit we can get from this. You know, most of what we're doing, of course, is promoting the unique historical nature of our township, but we've talked about having special events. We get requests on a regular basis, taking tours of it. We've had school groups interested. So far, we haven't been able to do much of any of those. We'd also like, we have a certain number of artifacts. It would be a perfect place for us to show off the artifacts from the township from various different sites that we've done. So we're excited to be able to make the building available to the public. We request your approval of the ADA project.
Sure. Are there any questions? Kate?
First of all, I love the idea. One of my suggestions, though, what we're finding in Malvern, when we walk on Malvern streets, bricks are really hard to walk on. I was injured in a car accident. I'm having a really hard time walking on bricks. My mother fell on the bricks in Malvern, so I would just reconsider possibly like pavers that are easier to walk on. If people are in a walker, the bricks are hard to walk on. And even I was on a scooter for a while and the rumbling was difficult, so I would just consider something smoother than bricks. And I would love you to take care of like South Malin Road graveyard.
Okay. Right. I probably didn't explain it very well. You know, what we're talking about is concrete pavers. Bricks have a shorter lifetime. They're not sufficiently smooth for wheelchairs. So what we are talking about is concrete pavers. Yeah, and so part of one of the things that happens just in terms of this, because I think it's a real important issue for us, is typically they put several inches of crushed stone underneath the pavers. But there is a spec which is a spec that's used for actually driving on. Our intention to drive on this, where they use a full 6 inches and they start with various levels of crushed stone. Once they compact that, it feels almost like concrete. So it's the underlay that if you don't put down the right base, any surface will get it. But so this is a brick, this is a paver, but it just looks like a brick so that it can speak with the keeping of the building. But you're right, we have to be careful and we need to be certain. That's part of the reason for selecting a contractor we have confidence in, is to be certain that we get a surface that's really a good surface for this.
Jeff, going down the road, are there any other major projects that you see that would impact or that you would be coming to the board for Gunkel Mill?
There is, and we've normally generated an annual budget for this. We don't quite make our spending of the budget because it takes more time as volunteers to do it. But in particular, there's a certain number of maintenance projects that are needed for the mill over the next couple of years. You know, one example is that there is some small amount of rotten wood, and the wood needs, all the wood on the building needs to be primed and painted. So that's a project. It's not a terribly expensive one, but it's part of the normal maintenance of keeping a building. The gutter system needs a little bit of work, and eventually we're going to have to replace the roof on the building. So those are some examples to what we do. We've been trying to spread that out so we don't come to you with a
a gigantic request all at once. And we're all volunteers, so we try to spread it out. But yes, there should be, or you should expect continuing requests from time to time. Nothing else probably in the next 3 or 4 months, but out further, yes.
Okay. Kathleen, another question?
Just the question is, when this is used for events, which is another great idea, the benefits of the events, or where did that money?
Oh, you're
the income.
Well, the events we're talking about are generally events for the general public. We haven't really contemplated at this point, for example, weddings or any other private events. So these would be public events. The building, because we don't have bathrooms at the building, we don't have running water, we don't have heat, the building can't be used, for example, for regular meetings, for supervisors meetings as an example. It's a public meeting. But for special events of all different types, it's possible. So that's really the target that we're going after. But we had never really considered the possibility, maybe in the future as we've developed the site in the building and put it into really great shape, I suppose it could be considered.
Okay, thank you. No other questions? I'll hear a motion.
Sure, happy to make this motion. I attended the wheel, opening. It was a very impressive place. I move to accept the proposal from Dooley Pine for the ADA ramp and front entry at Gunkel Spring Millwork, not to exceed $18,524.61. We can go a little higher. We can go up to 65 cents.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, thank you very much.
Another win for Jeff.
Okay, thank you. So the next project, if Zach, if you can go ahead and put a couple of slides up for the next project. This site, you can see it in the picture right here, is the Ebenezer Methodist Church, African American Methodist Church. It was a church built in the 1830s. It's a site this is on Backton Hill. For me, it's one of the most significant historical sites in our township. It's an African American community well before the Civil War. We have people who came to this. It was freed blacks, some of which were coming through the Underground Railroad. Some of them were freed ones from other places, runaway slaves, all sorts, and they had a whole community on Backton Hill. They were very, very active in that area. It is still owned by the church. You can see one of the church representatives as the owner in front of the church. But the property is certainly in need of some things to protect it, and then some things to identify it. If you've been up there recently, you'll also see there's quite a bit of development going around that. I think there's 6 homes being built in the general vicinity. And there's also more traffic on Backton Hill than there used to be. So this is about a historical marker so that people can understand and know what this ruin is and what this is. It's a ruin and a churchyard. So Zach, if you can turn the slide. So this was the center of a community. The community there, these people were very, very important, the African Americans, in the mining industries, in the forestry industries that were on this hill. So they were laborers and workers in this area. A very prominent family, the Malins, who were a Quaker family, were the ones who actually provided the land for this community up on Backton Hill. It has a graveyard, and in that graveyard we have several indicated graves that are from African American soldiers for the Union Army in the Civil War. So it's part of our diversity as a township, and we want, and it's good to include these kind of sites in any kind of a program you have that's historical. We're lucky to have sites. Maybe you can go next one. So as I said, it's church property. I wanted to give you just a brief idea of what's been going on at this site. First of all, we have some things that we've accomplished. One is that the site was heavily brushed, so the site's been cleared, so that now it's back to being a cemetery again, and it's been kept regularly mowed over the last several years. We've made temporary repairs to the fence, so the fence is really not in great shape, but at least it's more or less enclosing the site. There were several trees, not very good condition, and threatening the structure itself. We were able to get those trees removed. And another one, we've got a professor from the University of Pennsylvania who's done ground penetrating radar to be able to map the grave sites on getting documentation for the site. We have some future plans for the site. In this case, all of the activity is really at the behest of the owner of the site, who is the church. But the church really doesn't have much funds to support. They try and they give us a little bit, but have much funds to support that. So most of the work is done by volunteers, several of them from the Historical Commission. One is to brace and stabilize the church. The ruin has been slowly falling down, and we want to stabilize it. We're going to put some wood structure. We need a new fence, and we also want to cap the stones so that this structure can be there for the long term. I'm not going to try to recover it as a church. That's practical. So this is some of the plans that are in existence for the site, and we've been working progressively to do that. So specifically for tonight, if you turn the slide. We're proposing a marker for the site. This would be a marker established by the East Whiteland Historical Commission. I don't know if you can read it very well. Maybe you have a separate copy. Maybe I can. A copy of it right here would be easier.
I'll read it for you, Jeff.
Okay, go ahead.
This AME church grew out of the Free African Society movement established in 1787 in Philadelphia. James Mallon, a local Quaker, transferred the land to the church trustees in 1832. The African American community who built this structure lived, worked, and raised their families on Backton Hill. 60 grave sites also include blacks who enlisted and fought for the Union in the Civil War.
So this is a sign. You can go to the next one. This is a mock-up of the sign. And the sign would typically be cast aluminum sign with raised letters, which has durability and will last over a long period of time. So it was developed by the Historical Commission, but it was reviewed and approved by the church representatives, so we were sure to incorporate and include them. We got a vendor quote from a local company who's done signs for the township before, as a reputable company out of Westchester, and it's a 24 by 30 sign that will be close to the road near the structure. And so what we're proposing is for the supervisors to approve the manufacturing direction of this.
Jeff, are you still working with the AME folks in Philadelphia? Is that still the?
No, what they did was the people in Philadelphia assigned it to the pastor of the church in Tredyffrin. So there is an active AME church in Tredyffrin, in Paoli. I'm sorry, it's in Paoli. So they're the representatives for the church. So it's still connected to the church, yes, in Philadelphia, but they have assigned a representative who comes and joins us and was at our last Historical Commission meeting.
Right, okay. Just one other thought that I have, just going back to the grants that I was talking about at the beginning. If you can, going forward, if you're able to put together some of the information when the projects are coming up on the Gunkel Mill or any of the other properties, if you can let me know or let Zach know, we're working with a consultant who has a lot of experience in different grant writing and abilities to maybe locate some funding sources that might be something we want to look at.
Yeah, that would be terrific. I mean, that's our biggest headache right now. You know, with the first estimate we got on redoing a complete fence, a new fence for the site is $10,000. Doing some work with the stone and the stabilization. We've tried to get people to volunteer, contractors, but mostly you have to spend some money. We're trying to be economical in what we do, but the reality is some funding would be terrific.
Okay, great. No other questions? Would you like to make a motion?
I'd love to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal from Elmark for the historic plaque at the Ebenezer AME Church Cemetery on Backland Hill Road for the price not to exceed $5,863.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes.
Good, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff, for everything you're doing over there. Steve Brown, you're up for a Walderson Properties.
Right, thank you. This relates to a proposal from TerraPhase for environmental due diligence services related to the acquisition effort regarding the Spring Ridge and Balderston properties. The Spring Ridge and Balderston properties are associated with the Malvern TCE site, and because of that, the acquisition is very complex, to say the least, and has been taking quite a bit of time, a lot of moving pieces. And our attorney from Hamburg Rubin, who works with Bernadette, Steve Hahn, has advised that we should seek special liability protection from the EPA. And the method to do this is to perform these, as they call them, environmental due diligence services. It's essentially a phase one, which we've already had performed, but it's dated. So we need to update it anyway to move ahead with the acquisition. But that's what this is for the amount not to exceed $7,800. It's again for our protection.
And for everyone out there, the total property acreage on this acquisition is 140 acres, and almost all the funding is coming from government sources at this point in time.
Right, 90% is from the county combined with federal government money through the Land, Water, and Conservation Fund.
Where's the property?
It's basically across from the question was, where's the property? It's basically across from the high school and the middle school. It has very little road access, but it's right there, kind of as you go past the school on Phoenixville Pike. It's on your left, and it's kind of down where the ball fields are, or ball field is. It's associated with the Malvern TCE Superfund site. That is a separate property, so we will not be acquiring the Superfund site. There are monitoring wells on one of the properties, maybe both of the properties. There's monitoring wells all over the neighborhood up in that area, but yeah, that's why this is so complicated. We're working with the EPA, the Justice Department, the National Park Service, the DCNR, the prospective, the PRPs, the responsible parties, and their attorney, the property owner. It's just been, it's like untangling a very, I don't know how to describe it. Something that's very tangled. A fishing line, maybe.
It's become so convoluted that this started prior to, I think, my time on the board, but we recruited Sue Drummond to help Steve continue this project. It was something that she spearheaded way back when, so her involvement is appreciated. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is open space, and when we acquire the property, and I'm confident we will, we keep moving forward and we're making progress, it will just be open space. There is quite an extensive, it's basically they're old roads, but the old roads will serve as a trail network that crisscross the properties there, so that's all it's ever going to be. It's not going to be ball fields, or we're not going to clear it. It's wooded hillside. It's very nice woods. There's actually some headwaters to the Valley Creek, and Little Valley Creek are up there, and some really nice wetlands, and it's really going to be a nice and unique property for residents. We'll put in a parking lot. There is an existing, it's a ranch home, and we'll take the ranch home down and we'll put in a little parking lot there as the trailhead, and that'll be about it.
Zach has it up on the screen if you're curious. It's a lot of wood saved.
Part is in Charlestown Township. It runs all the way over to 401 also.
Is that any further questions? Would you like to make a motion? I'm sorry?
Is this on your website?
That's a good question. I'd have to check. I mean, but it certainly is some.
I don't
Donna's
believe
saying
so.
It's not. We'll certainly get something up there.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the Tara Phase 1 environmental due diligence services for Spring Ridge and Balderston for $7,800.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And passes. John Nagel, if you're ready for some investment discussions.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. As the board knows, we've been looking at getting a better return on our investments through the two banks or two institutions that we've been dealing with. And so the request for proposal, I believe it's in final draft form. If you have any final revisions to it, I would take notes on that and make those edits. But there's a timeline in there. We're looking to have recommendations through our pension board of trustees. They meet during the day in May, and then our board meeting in June. I think that's what we're targeting for making these recommendations, but we still have a good deal of work to do. At this point, it's an invitation-based request for proposal. We've identified seven firms that we'd be interested. Some are banks and some are investment firms to bid on the work, and basically it in a nutshell.
Okay, thanks for all your work and a lot of input, I know, going into getting this to where it is today. So I don't see any major questions on this. Peter, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I'd love to make a motion to approve the RFP for pensions and OPEB trustees for the township operating and capital investments. Is that correct?
Yep. Got a second?
I'll make a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. All right.
Thank you.
Peter, I think we've got a topic that you're interested in. Not yet. John Neal, can you tell us about paving contracts?
Yes, we had our bid opening on April 3rd, and we have the recommendation letter here tonight. The low bid was from Innovative Construction for $459,286.50.
Have we used them before, John?
Yes, they've, in the last 7 years, I think we've 2 or 3.
Great.
Out of curiosity, what was the next bid?
The next bid was $475.
Okay. Make a motion, Peter.
I would love to make a motion to award the 2023 road paving contract bid to the accepted bidder. Is that right?
Innovative Construction.
Innovative Construction. Thank you, John.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I guess Greg ended up leaving? Okay. Well, I'll move on to make a motion to approve to advertise on municipal bid the 2015 Dodge Ram truck. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I hand it over now to Zach Barner to talk about planning and development.
Sure, thanks, Scott. The first series of items here are development applications which are in a position to be voted on for approval. We've drafted approval resolutions for each of them with some general sort of boilerplate types conditions and some project-specific conditions. The first one here is the amended final land development plan for the school district's 5th and 6th grade center on the corner of Swedesford and Church Road. This is specifically to amend their previous plan approval to add additional acreage to the east of the property to construct some recreation and gardening facilities primarily. We've got the resolution is drafted. There was a site meeting yesterday to discuss the possibility of saving one of the existing trees sort of along the shared property line between the KD Markley parcel and this new recreational parcel. Some of the ideas we discussed to save that tree would impact the proposed grading. So I believe that, I don't want to speak for the district. I know their engineer and other representatives are here, maybe to provide sort of a status update on where that analysis is and just to see if there's a way to kind of work through that.
And for everyone, in the background a little further is that during the land development process, there was back and forth about trying to save additional trees that was on the property. We had agreed to a number, but once the arborists ended up looking at some of the trees, there was concerns about safety in terms of potentially being hazardous. And so we ended up saving a few trees, not as many as we'd hoped for, and this one stood out because of the size of it. And so we've been trying to come up with a solution to save this. I think it's a maple, but or pin oak, I'm not sure which it is. But it's a very large deciduous tree. So that's the background to where we are now.
Good evening. Yes, I'm Chris Jensen with T&M Associates, and as Zach mentioned, we did have a site meeting yesterday to take a careful look at this particular tree, and following that meeting, we also did some analysis back in our engineering office and took a careful look at the plan. I know some of the discussions revolved around potential changes to the design, grading, even potentially lowering the athletic field as a mechanism to try to save this tree, with the potential that the township even could take some of the excess material related to that. So we took a careful look, and it might help if I describe a little more detail where the tree sits with relation to the athletic field that's there. I'm not sure, Zach, if you have a graphic to provide. If not, I can describe it.
I do, yeah, bear with me, I will bring that up.
Okay.
This is the existing. No, it's okay. I should have had it queued up. I did not. I apologize.
So that's the existing parcel that has been added to the development project. It's approximately 7 acres size, and you can see some of the features that are on the parcel. The tree itself in question is right where Zach is stating, right along the common property between the school building site and this additional piece of property that was acquired. Zach, maybe could you jump to the grading plan? So, yeah, where Zach's cursor is approximately where the tree is located. And what you see there, the lines that you see there, they are contour lines representing what we call fill material that required to raise the field so that it would be level. So that area there shows approximately a 7-foot fill area. And the tree itself is located near the top of that fill embankment, very close to the edge of the field, probably 2/3 of the way up. And the tree's drip line actually extends approximately to where you see the 375 contour across the field, about 25 feet into the field area. So that's the location of the tree in question. So the goal when we were looking at this to try to see if we could save it is within that drip line or within that drip zone, we would not want to grade at all. We wouldn't want to cut, we wouldn't want to fill. We looked at how that might be possible and essentially came up with a starting point that would shift the field approximately 25 feet north or planned north so that the edge of the field would be just at the drip line of the tree. Now, that, as I said, you wouldn't want to cut or fill at that spot. So in order to maintain the field and keep it flat, or generally flat the way we have it now, what we would have to do is actually excavate on the opposite side of the field to make it have that 2% grade across the field. So,
Can I just clarify my mind? You said you were going to move it 25 yards to the north, the soccer field, or the field. And if that were the case, wouldn't that take it outside of the drip line of the tree?
If the field was shifted 25 feet to the north, it's actually east, planned north, it would take it outside the drip line of the tree, but then we would also have to change the way the field is actually graded. Right now, it's a fill slope. We would have to start at the level grade at that drip line and cut to the planned north, keep it flat. And what that does is, you can see on this plan, the trail is planned north between the field and the property line. So shifting the field and the trail 25 feet to the north puts the trail only about 5 feet away from the property line. And the grading from that we would have to do to make the field flat, that it would be now cut grading instead of fill grading, that would have to happen between the trail and the field. So essentially what would occur is that the buffer area in between the trail and the property line that currently has existing vegetation that is to remain, plus a lot of new proposed vegetation, wouldn't be able to be there anymore because the trail would move to that area and then it would immediately have cut slope. So the
why couldn't you just take the field and move it directly, as I'm looking at it, to your left towards Sweetsford, the 25 or the 30 yards, and it would stay on grade? The tree would remain and you would just be more forward on the field. You'd actually have more room in the back for larger activities.
Yeah, so the field is located there specifically for access from the other recreational portions of the site on the building side. It's also set back from a public way, Swedesford. It adds a little bit more security element. It also is pinched from a geometrical standpoint as you make your way towards Swedesford because of the existing drives that are there, some of the other vegetation that we not disturb. So it's actually, the field itself is located, fortunately, in a spot that has significant impact on that tree. And if it was closer to the edge of the field, we might be able to shift it more, 10 to 20 feet or so, but it happens to be near the. So those are some of the actual plan layout ramifications that would be needed from a permitting and approvals perspective. What would need to occur is that the limit of disturbance of the disturbed area would change at an NPS permit modification. And finally, I think based on some of the testimony that was given during conditional use related to the trail and the buffering of that trail, I would think that an conditional use amendment also be warranted due to a shifting of the trail, the buffering related to that property line. So all said, those things, besides the complexities with the construction and the extra material that would necessary to be excavated when in fact we don't have information if there's shallow rock there or not. There is shallow rock across, don't have that information. Adds a lot of complexity that would add months to the project. Project is actually ready now to go to bid. Difficult, unfortunately, to do anything other than what we're showing.
You wouldn't be going as deep, so you wouldn't run into issues with rock.
But we would still need to start at the grade of the drip line and build at the same pitch it is now. We would still have to cut almost, by the time you reach the other side of the field, about 7 feet. So in that
you're cutting 7 feet right now, but
Scott, I think what he's trying to explain is that they're currently adding fill to build up the field, whereas the opposite would be the case going forward. Instead of adding up 7 feet to one side, they'd be cutting in 7 feet on the other side.
Okay.
Thank you, Jack.
From what I remember, when this was before us earlier, several months ago, we decided, I thought, on saving 6 trees. I think that was the number.
That's correct.
Was this one of those identified trees?
No.
It was not. Okay. The 6 were closer to Swedesford Road. Right?
Correct.
Okay.
And none got saved. You traded out the 6 for the holly tree.
Well, there were, a couple different arborist studies, took a look at those specific trees and health concerns, and some of those trees required that we remove them. We did go back and make a plan modification. We meandered the trail, the future trail around that tree to save that, which is a very nice holly tree. It's unfortunate, I understand, and them understands the value of these trees, but the planning and the efforts and the needs for the programming of this facility, just complexities in time are really outweigh, I think, fortunately, the ability to save that. How it is included as very nice. Very nice.
To the point about the evergreens that were discussed during the conditional use process and the initial land development process, I believe those are the sort of the 5 in the star pattern here. I could be wrong about that, but I think the way it was referenced in our risk report was that some of the other deciduous trees were more questionable, that these were, if appropriately safeguarded, let's say, from compaction and disturbance, that they could be saved. They've updated the plan to retain those. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong on that, since there's been a couple of different plans, but I believe those ones that were discussed previously have ultimately been saved in addition to the holly.
Can you circle which one, or just?
Yeah.
It's the front portion, correct?
Yeah, so there was a tree line that ran all along this portion previously. Some of the evergreens that were essentially previously planted along the property line have come out, and additional trees further, I guess, south or plan right would come out. I believe the 5 that you're discussing are these evergreens in this cluster. And I believe what Chris was referencing earlier is if you were to shift the field closer to Sweetsford Road, you'd essentially take these other trees out that were previously discussed and attempted to save. So it'd kind of be kind of a trade-off.
Zach is correct. In our latest plan iteration, it's represented that those particular trees are to remain per the original conditional use.
Can I ask that when you guys go out there next time, can you put a specific color code tape around the trees that are being saved? I know you've got yellow tape on the ones that are going to be removed, just so that it's easy to identify and no one doesn't err in the construction site.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Because there's obviously plenty of trees that are coming down.
Right.
But
that's always a concern of ours, that it's identified.
we don't need an oops.
Right.
After this. Go ahead, Chuck.
Would it be helpful at all for Dr. DeFreitas to put out a timeline why this is so crucial, or don't we need that?
Yeah, I think that's important, because I know that's a concern. It's a concern of yours.
Thank you very much. Chuck Peterson, the finance director, and Dr. DeFreitas, the superintendent of schools. We are trying to bid this project out in conjunction with the highway work that we've agreed to as part of the land development, Mill Lane and Swedesford and all that. And we're hoping, we are going to open that school the fall of '24. So we have 1 year left. And we're really hoping to take advantage of the next 2 summers. The kids right now don't have a place to play, and I'll let you talk about that.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Chuck. And hi, I'm Dan Gaffredo, Superintendent of Schools. So certainly I empathize with the ability to salvage trees. I think you all know there will be a surplus on the site from trees now, albeit not the same maturity level. And being out there, Scott, we were out there taking a look at the tree and trying to evaluate it. So I appreciate the township's commitment. From a superintendent's perspective, obviously, you know, we've been through the year of Katie Markley Elementary School with 650 plus kids really being compromised throughout the year. We've recently canceled our spring fair. We don't have anywhere on the campus to put it. We've had some other snags along the way. Students have been playing on hardtop all year long. And so if we could, as much as I respect the value of the tree, we definitely had our engineers do the deep dive. It just doesn't look feasible. And we do worry from an educational standpoint, without the development of these 7 acres, that our students at Katie Markley again could go through a similar year. And coming off of COVID and trying to get kids outside and break, it would be very helpful for us to maintain a schedule and a time frame to begin development as soon as possible. I know you realize that. I just wanted to echo it, and I know it's something that's on your minds as well. So
if we can
thank
get
you.
out for bid soon, and we can get this seeded or sodded or whatever, and we're trying to get the kids on there this fall when school opens again, because we're getting beat up by the parents right now, frankly, and the principal and the teachers. They've been real champs. The parents, the kids, the teachers, they've really worked, because they've got a major construction site going on there, and they have to play ball out in the parking lot. The playground's going to get paved next week. We're finally going to have a playground, and the last piece we need is to get that 7 acres done so that the kids can play on it. So if we don't get out to bid soon, we won't get contractors contracted, they won't mobilize, we'll lose this summer. And according to our engineers, by grading this, and if you can imagine that field sloped like this, and the idea was to build it up like this. So if you keep this down, this has to come down. That's the easiest way to put it. That's going to cost time and money, and we don't have either one. So we again, does anybody know the number? I think we've cut down 100 trees and are planting 300, right? And that's just, that's a great thing. So we're down to one now. You guys have really helped us. We appreciate it. Zach's been great. I don't know how we could have done any of this without Zach. I think we're at the finish line, but we'd really like it if you could help us through this last piece here. So.
This bid that's going out is going to include the excavation at Mill Road and Sweetsford.
Yeah, we're hoping to bid these in conjunction with each other and maybe save general contract.
That sounds great.
A net gain of 200 trees sounds pretty good, to me. One question, when I ask it, you'll know I know nothing about trees. This tree, I assume, is too big to pick up and move? Yes. Okay.
It is. It's a beautiful tree. I mean, I give that. I wish we had the option. It's a very large, very mature tree.
They have these monster things that dig into the ground. I work with somebody who does that, so I think he's crazy too. But okay.
Thank you.
I just wanted to go on record that we had talked about an option that when we were out there in terms of the fact that we could potentially leave the tree. You had made a comment about making the field smaller. I don't feel as though that's advantageous for the kids now or in the future. So I think you need a full-size field. But the grading could be lessened, and the soil would be removed to a site, to a couple developers that we're working with that need topsoil. And so that's something we explored yesterday, and we recognized that there would be some new permits that would be needed and would delay you. So I think that has somewhat of an impact on the decision.
Are we being asked to approve a change in the plan or just reaffirm the plan that's already approved?
We were here last month. We pretty much had everything wrapped up, and you folks asked if we would please evaluate if there was a possibility of saving that tree. So that's what we've done, and our position is we really can't save it. Nothing else has changed from when we visited with you a month ago.
Okay. But the plan, this is preliminary final, or this is final?
This is an amended final, really just to add this parcel and these improvements we're discussing here tonight, the field and the garden area and the associated grading, to the previous approval. So it's an amended final plan, but it's kind of a new plan in the sense that it adds.
We're adding the strip to the bigger parcel.
So it's a new plan in the sense that it's an added area to the project, but it's not a new plan from what was discussed previously, I think is what he was responding to.
I understand. Okay.
Sort of more of
if this wasn't approved, this would affect the main parcel too, wouldn't it?
We would have to, first of all, we would have to separate the highway work from the 7 acres because we need to get moving with the highway work.
Right.
So yeah, in that sense, it would affect the overall project.
Yeah, I mean, it is a nice tree. But a net gain of 200 to me is meaningful. You okay with that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, reluctantly. Just to, again, I know that
it's for the kids.
We, Zach and I have, and Al came out and we talked through a lot of different options, and I thought we had a solution. We have a question? Yes.
My name is Chris McKenna. We live at One Valley Creek Road, and I was an educator for 41 years. I want to speak as an advocate for the kids, for the coaches, for also the community. Coaching with Great Valley, I worked with Great Valley for most of my career, and being a coach out there with the kids, and also out with many functions as a teacher with the kids on the fields, the tree, even though it's pretty, is a major lightning hazard. And when you're taking this and opening this ground up, you know, we all love trees, but we ought to protect our kids first. And, you know, we have the perfect environment. You know, I taught meteorology for 31 years, and being part of this valley, we know we are in the best area for this uplift that occurs on this side of the slopes and leaves us with this lightning-prone area through here. So I would say, even though it's beautiful, they're offering to put more trees out, saves them a lot of time, gets our kids back outside where they have and need to be from our COVID and get back to socialization and sports. It might have to go. So that might be one of the easiest answers. So thank you.
Just a matter of housekeeping. There was a draft resolution circulated today to both the school district and to the board that added conditions K and L. These were relative to the site meeting and the additional information about the tree, and then some of the other ripple effects regarding the grading. If the board is inclined to accept the plan as currently drafted, we should strike these two additional conditions from the version that gets executed.
Okay. Any other questions or? No?
Peter?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't read it.
K and L.
You mean in the resolution, Zach?
Pardon me?
That's 331.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong. Sorry, I'm in the wrong resolution, or approval.
I mean, you want to find it before I make a motion?
Let's see what it was.
Do you have that in front of you to read K and L right now?
Yeah, to read them
Yes.
as to whether you want to
Just so
consider
we know
them.
what they are. Yes.
Sure, yeah. They're a little long, so I apologize. So K is, as discussed during a field meeting among representatives of the Great Valley School District and Township on April 11th, the applicant, through coordination with the Township and its consultants, shall provide additional information regarding the exact location, species, health, and root zone for the existing mature deciduous tree along the shared property line, approximately midway through, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to describe the tree here in this, midway along the sideline for the proposed multi-use grass field. The applicant shall update the final plan for the revised project, that's the reference to this project,
Sure.
to show the additional information within the context of the proposed landscaping and grading, which tees up the next one that says, in addition to condition 2K above, the applicant shall attempt to retain the existing mature deciduous tree referenced above through modifications to the proposed grading. Let me know if you want me to keep going. The applicant shall explore the feasibility and practicality of various methods, including but not limited to installing a retaining wall, tree well, or other features around the tree to protect the root system from disturbance, semicolon, altering the proposed cut and fill for the multi-purpose grass field to lower the overall elevation, semicolon, and other strategies as may be determined through review and coordination with the township engineer. There's more. Should I go on?
No, it's enough for me. Okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion then to approve the amended land development plan. Right, that's for Great Valley 5-6, excluding paragraphs K and L as conditions.
And a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead and bid.
Still don't see it. What page is that in the packet there? In the packet, in the electronic packet? 48?
66. 66.
I only go up to J.
Here, this sheet
Is it on here? They put pages on there now.
I put the numbers in red.
Yeah, I got it, but
Yeah, I apologize. This resolution we were just talking about was, we talked about this on the phone, Peter. It's okay. It did not make it into the packet. It was revised today following the meeting yesterday. So people understand we have 200 pages of documentation in front of us, and sometimes trying to find the correct page has been a challenge.
and I do try to do my due diligence and read everything, so I'm trying to figure out what I missed. But we did discuss this, so.
Zach, we now have an easy one regarding the hernia repair operation.
Sure. So the next one here is a preliminary final land development application for Schuldice hernia repair at 330 Lancaster Avenue. It was discussed last month. There was some cleanup items since the Planning Commission's recommendation relative to stormwater. I believe all of those outstanding comments have been addressed to the satisfaction of the township engineer. There are a series of waivers that were discussed last month. They're reflected in here. 6 of them to be exact. No real project-specific conditions other than that. Happy to answer any questions.
I would love it if all the final letters looked like this. I mean, Al, can you do that for us? Or just no questions anywhere? No request for waiver? It was beautiful to read that. Thank you.
Any questions? Don, anybody? All right. Peter, would you like to make a motion?
Gladly. I'd like to make a motion to approve the preliminary final land development for the Schuldice hernia repair at 330 Lancaster Avenue, parcel LD-08-2022.
Do I have a second, Rich?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and passes. Moving on to 6A3.
Sure. So this is a redevelopment of an existing property at 280 Great Valley Parkway. It is a preliminary / final plan. There are a couple of project-specific conditions on this one, namely compliance with the zoning hearing board decision that was sought relative to mostly setback relief. So they'll have to comply with that. From a planning standpoint, there is a request to defer construction of the sidewalk until such a time as some of the surrounding properties develop and we know how to connect them all to one another. We have language here regarding the obligation to construct it within 1 year of receiving written notification of the township, or at an earlier date if they so choose. But we have the hammer in the sense that they have to do it within 1 year when we tell them. It's been designed, so it is more or less ready to go once they receive that written notification. Aside from that, the resolution only contains the waivers. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Any questions?
No,
Simple. Rich?
Yep, make a motion to approve LD 12-2022. Preliminary final land development plan for Jansen 280 Great Valley Parkway. Oh, well, with whatever conditions are in the approved resolution, sure. Yeah, that's all part of it.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
Do I have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is just consideration of an extension. This is for the project on 10 South Malin Road. The board has discussed this project a couple times over the last few months. This is a request to accept this extension to allow them additional time to revise the plan consistent with the recent concept plan they submitted to reduce the parking area and save additional trees at the rear of the site.
I will take any comments on this at this point in time.
Actually, I think Lou Calagreco just left the room.
He did.
I don't know if he realized he was up next.
Yeah. I have a comment, that's all. I figured he would. I'll tell you what, why don't we skip this discussion till he gets back.
I think he left. I don't think he ran to the restroom. I think he left.
He knew he was up next. He knew he had to come back because he was talking about it. He didn't need to go.
We'll hold off. We had to grab a cigarette.
Yeah, he doesn't smoke.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, the application is for an extension. So
Yeah, the only thing before you
that
tonight
doesn't-
is an extension.
Right.
To provide additional time for them to revise and resubmit the plan consistent with the concept that was provided just for initial feedback.
Okay, let's just skip over this and go to the next one at this point in time. My prerogative, that's what we're going to do. Sure.
Yeah, next item on the agenda then is consideration of a final release of financial security for the project at 63 Ton Road. There's a cash escrow for some pretty limited site improvements that were secured. They've completed the work. It's been inspected by Aero. They're recommending
Which
release of the
business
plan.
is that?
This is the Closets by Design building, and there's other tenants within that building, but that's the main.
60. All right, Al, thanks. All right. Everything all right, Greg?
Yeah, we set a crash on third.
Everybody okay?
Yeah, a couple for the hospital. Mine.
Good. So 6D, I don't see any issues at this point in time. Any comments? Are there any concerns on 3-ton, Al, releasing of financial security?
No concerns on that.
Okay.
This is for a 63-ton road, not 3-ton road.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
right.
not-
Okay, I know.
It's for the classified design.
Right, okay, I know, okay.
Keep designing those closets. Let's go. I'll make a motion if.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Please.
I'll make a motion to approve the release of the financial security for 63 Ton Road, Lot 2, in the amount of $36,477.51.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item is just a motion to consider authorizing the advertising for the following ordinance amendments. This is a subdivision land development ordinance amendment that would require development applications to prepare a sound and vibration study by a qualified engineer. The other component of this is to require that this and other types of impact studies, such as traffic impact studies, fiscal impact studies, recreation impact studies, to all be submitted at the time of preliminary plan submission, as opposed to currently it appears that it's only required during final. We generally get them at preliminary, but this is sort of a two-part code amendment.
Any questions? No? Motion?
No, I'll make the motion. Did anything specific lead to this?
I think the intent is just to better understand particularly large-scale commercial and industrial buildings and the impacts they might have on surrounding properties.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion to authorize the advertising for the add sound and vibration study to the Saldo.
Peter, do I have a second?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. We'll move back to 6C. Back in time, Zach.
Sure. So the request is to consider an extension through the end of May to allow them additional time to clean up the plans relative to what they're proposing essentially is to remove what was an interior office component to the warehouse and flex building. The intent there is by removing the office, it reduces their parking requirement, so they're able to remove the rear or southern parking lot, thereby freeing up about 12,000 square feet of existing wooded area, which reduces their waiver request relative to tree removal.
And I had a comment, and the reason why I was hoping that Lou would be here as he's representing them, because this is in the Bishop Tube area, and one of my concerns is, one is the removal of the canopy of mature trees throughout the township, and especially at this site near Bishop Tube. The second concern that I have on this is that I've become more concerned with the findings of the PFAS contamination and the issues that could impact Little Valley Creek. So I'm not in favor of granting a waiver on this as we go forward, and I will dissent at the next meeting. So I just wanted to pass that along and mention that to those involved.
With that said, are the other board members open to the concept of approving that waiver request? Because if not, that message should be relayed back to him. I think Scott's been consistent, certainly, on his lack of support for that waiver, but they're operating under the assumption that it will at least be considered at a future month's meeting.
I'll have to relook at it based on the revised plan, the revised concept.
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I don't remember the effect of saving I think the wooded area above the building is staying now, not coming down. And parking will be needed. But yeah, I'll look at the plan. I don't know without looking at it.
Understood.
They can take their chances and let their engineer loose and spend more money, or they can wait.
Understood.
I would echo Scott's concerns with the site. The environmental concerns are great with that, and
Then they should be told.
I mean,
Yeah.
They will be told
Right.
tomorrow.
So we need to, do we vote to consider an extension time, or do we?
I would recommend that you accept the extension. Otherwise, you have to make a decision and we'd have to render a decision tonight, which I don't really think we're in a position to do.
Okay.
seems a little unfair without council being here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Before we vote, we've got a question in the audience.
Good evening, Barb Arnold, Fonstock Road. I'm just a little confused, Scott. I don't understand what you're not in favor of, because it sounds like, not that I'm in favor of building there at all, but it sounds like they're saying they want less parking and saving trees. So what exactly is it that you and Pete don't like?
We're objecting to the waiver allowing them to exceed the number of trees to be removed within our ordinance, okay?
Okay.
And as such, we are voting, or pending our vote, are not in favor of granting that waiver.
Okay.
So that would essentially not allow the development to move forward of any sort.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi, Kate Stauffer, Fawnstock Road. And you mentioned the PFAS. And I guess my question too is, before we make any decisions, or before you, I know that, I understand, I don't know, I understand that in May, something big's coming out with the EPA, PFAS, and the combination of PFAS and TCEs. So, to be able to make decisions the way we make decisions in the township without those expert scientists giving us more information. I know the PFAS are huge and coming out more and more before even the TCE, the TCEs was one thing, but, and I hear that's one of your reasons for not wanting them to be, and keeping as much as the canopy as we can back there. Is that true?
From the STI, if we can, the status of new regulations coming down from DEP on PFAS. Yeah. It's some idea. Yeah.
A little birdie told
we'll
me
ask.
it was.
Okay.
And Kathleen, don't go away, because at some point, Steve Brown's going to give us an update of anything that he has heard recently pertaining to Bishop Tube and meetings. I asked him to give us a recap. So I guess we need to make a motion.
We still need to move to accept the extension. Right.
Do I have a second?
I'll make a motion. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Extension passes. Next, John, updates on zoning?
For the month of April, we have no new applications to consider at this time. At the April 24th meeting, we'll be hearing the application of the PEG Avia application for the conversion of Sonesta Suites, which was discussed at the previous meeting at the March Board of Supervisors meeting. On code enforcement updates, we've been out collecting illegal signs that have been erected in the right-of-ways throughout the town, and these all were for out-of-town businesses. We've been contacting these businesses directly in an attempt to curtail further violations and issuing enforcement notices when necessary. We'll also in the future be reaching out to township businesses in an attempt to seek compliance for any signs, especially temporary signs, which violate codes of the township. On ongoing issues, the gas station at Lancaster and Plainbrook got a response from the owner today. They're still waiting arrival of some sensors that will help them complete the repairs, and equipment upgrades are required. DEP has approved them for restoration. Once these parts are delivered, the machinery will be restored, the ground could be closed, and the station reopened.
John, could I just ask you, just because of the length of time that pile of dirt and everything is sat there, based on the information you just recently found out, can that sit like that for an extended period of time and our hands are tied? Or is there anything we can do to...
On the dirt itself is probably left, from what I understand, there to air out, to test, so they can't remove it until it was approved by the DEP to any other site. So some of it will be going back in the ground there, and with a tank that they replaced or going to replace as part of this, most of it will be removed at that time.
Do you have any period of time where you think that this might finally get rectified?
Ms. Singh told me Ms. Singh told me that the work would probably only take about 2 weeks for restoration. They're just awaiting for, she said there's 4 sensors that are upgraded materials that have not, we're in manufacturing.
Okay. All right, good job for staying on top of this. Any questions from anyone? Rich, Peter, anything?
Yeah, I'm good.
And next we have public comment. Why don't you come forward?
I'm Carol Armstrong. I live in. The question is Bishop Tube in any part of a process of being sold? Is it being sold or has it been sold?
To my knowledge, no to all 3.
Correct. No idea.
Every now and then there's rumors floating around and different things going on, but I haven't heard a rumor in a little bit. Could you tell us what you're hearing?
I'm not able to. I don't have enough information to say anything. That's why I came looking for information. But if it were in some process, what's the point at which you do find out?
The earliest would be when somebody has it under agreement to come to the, that'd be earliest when they would come to the township and ask us what the township attitude or any changes would have. The latest we would hear is after the transaction is completed and we see the transaction on the transfer tax list. Odds are it would be sooner than that.
You what?
Odds are we would hear about it when it was under agreement. Odds are.
If and when I can be helpful, I will. Thank you.
Yeah, keep us on speed dial if you hear something. Kathleen?
I'm going to sit closer next time. I know. Sorry, Donna. I'm sorry. My question with that is the old Warren property that is still on well, but 54 Conestoga, I think it is. Did we know anything about that? Because that was highly toxic. DEP was checking their well. And just wondering if you knew of that transfer before that big, huge house went up there, and are they safe? Are they hooked up to sewer? And if not, that well is contaminated.
Yeah, all I know is that they will be connected to public water, and so the well won't be an issue in terms, it won't be used for any purpose at that property.
Until they're hooked up to public water, what are they doing?
I'm not 100% sure, Kathleen. I think they've had some sort of system in the house. I can find out when it's going to be hooked up, but that's been agreed to. That is going to happen. I'll have to find out when.
Was a new house built there?
There's a big new house built there for a long time.
Oh,
my husband Larry, I used to call him nosy. I think he was just curious. But there was a big sign that says "Do not enter." Go back,
sure.
Kind of thing. We were going to knock on their door to find out and making sure they knew what they were sitting on, because that whole land was contaminated. DEP had tested them. Paula and her whole family was sick.
Yes, they were.
So that was a concern, and when Dr. Armstrong just had her comment, it made me think about that property and what's happening to the people in that house.
I would sure think or hope it would have come up in the building permit
I think
process.
my biggest thing, though, and I get that, Rich, I understand that, but because we know how toxic this spot is, a hope and a belief is not, is for me, is not good enough. I know.
If a house is going up or went up, a building permit was issued. If a building permit was issued, it'll say public water
And
or
then
well.
when do we meet up
period.
with DEP, and when is it stated that this land is toxic and that it's really dangerous to build on? You know how frustrated I am. I'm
Are you
sorry to
asking
take it.
if there was a covenant on the property?
No, I'm just concerned about the people who are living there and what's there. It just came to my mind when Dr. Armstrong brought up her question, was that property, we know Paula, we know her family and what they had to do and deal with, and just wondering about this property. But we as a township don't know those transactions. It's a private affair. True? But when it's a public health crisis, it should be more than just a private affair.
We do know when a building permit application is filed.
Yeah.
That we know. A house is not going to go up in this township without a permit being issued or applied for.
My point still then
Okay.
being, it's toxic land. So why do we give a permit to build on toxic land?
Listed for sale. Sorry. I just looked, when the house was listed for sale, it was very clearly advertised that there was no potable water on the site due to the Bishop Tube contamination. So they definitely know.
Know what they're... Thank you, and thank you for all you do.
So, okay.
So I understand you're a Realtor too?
So you have to
Where do you work? Bucks County, huh? Well, we're promoting you here. He's a Realtor. Good job.
Sorry. My name is Bob Logan. I live on Bass Cove in the Lockwood Chase development. I was here in December about this same issue. I'm not quite sure how to pose this to you. I'm not sure if I'm asking for status of what I requested before, or if I'm reminding you again of however you want to put it. The issue has to do with the safety of people driving on eastbound King Road, approaching 352. The traffic light there, when you're headed east, you want to make a left-hand turn, you get a left-hand arrow. I don't know that that does anything consequence. The safety issue is, when you start to make that left-hand turn that you're entitled to, you are bucking people who are headed westbound, coming out of the borough on King Road, and they want to make a right on red, headed north on 352. They don't give, and put a polite word you want to put in there, they don't care at all or know at all that they are creating a traffic hazard for those people who are headed eastbound and have a green arrow giving them whatever authority that is. So it's half a question of where do we stand. I remember after the meeting I spoke to Chief. He seemed to have some idea of what would work. But just recently, I'm one of the people comes out, hangs the left, tries to go south, or north rather. Three consecutive cars ran the right on red. And it's like, okay, I'll take on one of them. I'm not going to take on three of them. So you have to just sit there and fume and let them go flying by. All I can tell you, it's a stinking dangerous situation, and not trying to hang the chief out to dry. He seemed to have an idea of something that would work, sort of on the simple side, but I'm just trying to reinforce the fact that it's a stinking dangerous situation, and I'm sure hoping somebody. I told this story before. I've lived in that area for 35 or 40 years. And I raised this question once before, and the answer, police call me back, and I forget the sergeant's name, whatever, He said, Mr. Logan, we thought about restricting the right turn on red, but we didn't want to restrict people coming out of the borough, let them get on their way. But don't worry about it. If you're in an accident, you will be legally correct. You will win. And I'm like, well, that makes my widow feel good. I don't know. But I'm just asking, will somebody please take a look at that and take some action to make that a safe intersection? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
My proposal at the time was to look at the intersection and find out what, if anything, first of all, I wasn't sure exactly the turning movements that were permitted. So I didn't know for sure whether when one side gets a green turn signal, or is there actually a green turn signal which gives you the complete right of way. And I believe Mr. Logan was asking to have something changed that we're not legally able to change. So we were working with PennDOT and Bowman, who is our traffic engineers. We did go over it with them. And I honestly don't remember exactly what we came up with, but I know whatever you were asking to do, we were not going to be able to do that. My short fix was going to be just put a no turn on red coming westbound on King Road. So right now there is there's no sign that says no turn on red. That way we would have to go through PennDOT to get done. So whether it be Bowman or whoever, I know it was brought up at our traffic meeting, it just hasn't happened yet.
As a complete layman, my suggestion would be putting a sign that the westbound people can see that says, hey, opposing traffic has the right of way.
You really have to.
Sorry, Don.
It's okay.
That's okay. Hi, I'm Bob Logan. I live at Bass Cove. No. My suggestion, I drive around, you see signs all over the place. If there was some sort of sign that the people who were coming westbound, it would let them know there is oncoming traffic that has a right of way, something to let them know, hey, this isn't a free-for-all, go wherever you want to go. It's not scientific, it's not expensive, it's just a sign, but that's my layman's suggestion.
Both streets are state roads, right? King and 352.
Yeah, they're both state roads, and
Well, then that's a problem.
I mean, we can only do, even if we put a sign up, if somebody still runs through it, you know, you're still dealing with a situation. So all we can do is enforce it. We did have people sit and watch for a while, I know that, and they didn't see any major issues, but I guess if it happens, since you're there frequently, you live right around the corner, so you're there a lot more than we are, but we'll bring it to PennDOT's attention again, and we have a traffic signal meeting, should be coming up either this month or May, and we'll run it by PennDOT again.
We can't on our own put up a sign.
No.
Two state roads. Right.
Not on a state road.
Right.
Well, I learned that from Carol Lane.
Sure.
Now, Bob, is there a specific time where you're seeing more activity right on red? Is it later in the afternoon, 4 or 5 o'clock?
A long time ago, I would have told you it's bad during, morning rush hour, evening rush hour. It's always rush hour. I don't know. That's all I can tell you. I mean, I go sometimes. I'm quasi-retired, so I'm going to go play golf. I'm going to Wawa. I'm in and out all the time. My wife's in and out all the time, and it's just like, hey, how many near misses did you see today? It's pretty constant.
Okay, thanks.
We have several questions online. Debbie, go ahead.
Demo Deal 42 Village Way. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's kind of foggy. All right, I was getting some feedback. I am looking forward to the update on Bishop 2. Thank you very much for including that. My other concern is also about Bishop 2, is about the security of the site. And I would like to take this opportunity to invite the supervisors to come over for a beer, a cup of coffee, and walk with me to the end of my street. I'm totally serious. I have been babysitting my great nephew, and we walk the road every day, and we went a little farther down than I normally do to talk to some of our neighbors, and not only is there no fence there, okay, because the section of fence that was there years ago, from what I understand, was taken out by the plows, like pushing the snow up against it. It is clearly open, and there is a path where you can see people are walking right up into that property. And there's a big red sign there that says nothing because it is so old that you can't even tell what it means, and the grasses and the weeds have overgrown it. So there's no way to even know that this is a toxic area. So clearly people are going into it. Now, from what my neighbor tells me, the actual fence is farther up, and there's a lock on it. Well, shouldn't the whole property be fenced? And once you get beyond that area that I'm speaking of, those kids are going in there, and everything's all overgrown. Even if there's a lock on that fence, I guarantee they are jumping that fence, they are going into the building, they are graffitiing the walls, skateboarding. My kids did it, you know. The Kate's kids did it, you know. My kids are really spread out. I have several generations of kids that did it. So, you know, we know much more now. Why are they not required to truly secure that property? The weather is nice, and the kids have no business being in there. But please, if you don't want to stop for a beer, I got quite a selection from my nephews and my kids. At least drive by there on your way through. Just drive down to the end and look at that. It is an open invitation for more kids to get sick. Thank you. And again, I look forward to the update.
Deb, thanks. I know we had issues at the other end of the property some time ago, and I guess those were rectified, so I guess we'll take care of it, let the owner know.
Yeah, we were in contact with them previously, and DEP was in contact with them previously about fixing the fence, so we can follow up with both entities, I think, at this time would be the way to go.
I think when you and I were up there, we were mostly on the southern part of the fence system, like on 9 Malin.
Yeah.
And I don't believe the fence they were down there, but anyway.
Deb, is it mostly on the east side of the site, on the village side?
Which we were.
Yeah, it's just.
It's at the end of the dead end of the road.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not even exactly sure where their property ends, and I don't know whether it's no man's land, but the way it is set up there, with not even a section of fence there to deter children, or adults for that matter. It is an open invitation to come in. You know, and we've been saying that for years, you know, and as I said, even if that doesn't belong to them, there's no way that they are monitoring who's going back in there and hopping over their fence that's farther up the hill. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Yeah.
Kathleen?
we have another
Well,
question?
just that the fence she is talking about is the fence at the end of Village Way. And I don't know if that belongs to the township or belongs to Bishop 2. And the fences in the backwoods, no matter what we put up, the kids are going to go in there. The fact that we didn't know it was toxic when my kids were growing up, and my guys, I was outed by Deb, but my guys did go in there. No matter what you put up fence-wise, they're going to get. It's an intriguing place to hang out as a teenager or a middle schooler.
Okay, we have one more question. Kadar, you can unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you again. This is Kedar Gokle at 17 Accord Drive. I was here earlier, but I had to pick up my son, so I'm calling from home now. Just one quick item I wanted to bring up to the attention of the supervisors and get your opinion on is about the school bus stop on Flat Road and Accord Drive. So we are in Reserve at Great Valley. We've been living there about 2 years, some homeowners, and we've had a bus stop there at the intersection of Flat and Accord till 23rd of March, when we got a notice from the bus service that they will not have that stop there anymore. And the reason that they gave is that because between 7 and 9, you cannot make that left or right on Flat Road from Sidley. So my question is that restriction has been there for many, many years. I've been in this area for many years, but I don't know what happened on March 23rd that they stopped coming in the morning. So just wanted to get your feedback on that and how we should approach that.
Well, I don't know if you, obviously you didn't notice it, but you had the superintendent here in the second row a couple hours ago. It would have been a great time to nail him when he was walking out to ask him. But that's a question that Zach is going to answer.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so we did contact the bus service. They pointed to, I guess, the police or the township. So we don't know. We just wanted to get some feedback on how to move ahead with this.
I'd like to turn it over to Chief of Police Chris Yeager I did speak with the school district business manager today. He followed up with his transportation director. There's a couple of things at play here. I guess the first thing I'll start with the upshot is that we're going to follow up with the school district to discuss specifically the traffic restrictions and any impact that may have on the routing of the bus. What I do know relative to their operations is that they're facing a driver shortage. They are attempting to consolidate and simplify some of their bus routes. They're having trouble getting kids to school on time, believe it or not, because of some of the, I would say, the extensive routes. They are trying to limit, I think the phrase he used was the door-to-door service, and try to, consolidate people at, larger public roads to simplify their routing. So what I offer is that we will follow up with the school district to discuss the traffic restrictions specifically, and try to get them to at least understand potentially some other routing and it's possible that we could exclude the bus routes potentially. Again, I'm just throwing out ideas here, but
that's what I would suggest. Exclude buses. In Haverford Township, there are signs on Haverford Road turning into a street I know of called George's Lane, and it says do not enter certain hours except for school buses. True. It is being done in some places. So
yeah, I don't know that the school board would commit to actually entering the site, but that is at least one of the factors that I think we can help clarify with them at the very least.
Legal or not, it's being done.
Yeah, and Zach, I hear your point, and I think that might be the reason because of the shortage of bus drivers, but that's not the reason they gave us. So that's why we are here. So they gave the reason that it's because of the timing restriction, so which doesn't add up because the timing restriction has been there for many years, and they used to come last year.
Okay, we'll clarify with the district and just try to at least understand what some of the factors are, and maybe we can resolve at least one or two of them.
And the gentleman, I did not get your name, but is there a way that you can perhaps send your contact information to Zach so he can contact you when he finds anything out?
Yeah, this is Kedar. Yeah, I will send an email to Zach. Yeah, I have his email. Yeah, thanks.
You have Zach's email?
Yes.
You may have said that.
Yes, I do have Zach's email address. I'll send him my contact info.
Yeah, we've been in contact previously.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
That was for another matter. Yeah.
You're right.
Not for this.
Anything else, Donna?
Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Steve, while we're sort of like in the general comments and going out of order on everything at this point, can you give maybe just that update that you may have found out with Bishop Tube, with DEP?
I can, and after all that buildup, I'm afraid everyone's going to be disappointed in what I have to say, but I did speak actually today to DEP's representative. They tell me they will hold a public meeting. They do not have a date set. They're hoping for early this summer, is what I was told today. They do not have a location nailed down yet. I know they've been talking to the school district, but they just, and other possible venues, but they haven't made a decision, and they have yet to make a decision on the format. What I mean by, is it going to be a hearing format as before, or will it be a meeting format where they allow questions and answers? I have urged them in all my communications to allow the question and answer format. So unfortunately, that's all I can tell you.
Well, appreciate you checking in on that at this point in time. Okay. We are out of public comment and moving into the consent agenda. And as is normal, I will ring them off. Anyone has any questions, stop me and we'll discuss them. 9A, approve the meeting minutes from March 8th, 2023. Ratify payment of bills for the amount of $689,247.47. Accept the treasurer's report for February of 2023. Ratify acceptance of proposal from RT Environmental Services for soil delineation investigation for price not to exceed $9,220. Approve payments number 10 to Mecco Constructors for construction services at Backton Hill Park in the amount of $106,972.46 for total payments to date of $1,438,341.55 out of a total contract aggregate of $1,589,503. And Al, I just got asked, did they eventually clean up some of the issues that you had brought up last month with, or is that still pending? I haven't been over there.
We're preparing a punch list, and there are a decent amount of things that still need to be addressed.
Are we holding any money back for that expected punch list work?
We still have $150,000 in hand right now.
Okay. All right. So we do have the hammer.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. F, approve authorization to submit technical evaluation grant application to DEP for further review of Bishop Tube remedial action plan. And we have a question?
Can you, Barb Arnold, Fonstalk Road, can you just provide just a tiny bit of detail about what that exactly is?
Steve?
No, I'll be happy to. We applied for this grant a number of years ago and were awarded $50,000, and we used that money. We hired BSTI, and we spent that 50 plus some of our own money for their services to review, well, I'll just call it the proposed plan. And since last fall, when they provided the actual plan, BSTI has already been doing some review work, but we believe we're entitled to additional monies. We are asking for $100,000. The way the technical evaluation grant program works is the DEP's documents state that we're eligible for $50,000 per operable unit. And the operable units is their jargon for what's contaminated. One of the operable units is the on-site soil. The second operable unit is the groundwater contamination. And the third is the property that Kathleen asked me about earlier, which is actually 54 Conestoga Road. So there are 3 operable units. We've received 50,000. We believe we're entitled to another 100,000 for further review, which will ultimately lead to, we will have another public meeting of our own. It will be a meeting that allows questions and answers and dialogue as we have in the past. So anyway, the board needs to authorize submittal of it so we can indicate that to the DEP.
Great, thank you for that detail, I appreciate it.
Sure.
And just a comment on that, if you ever get a chance to look at it, the BSTI has done a tremendous job in reciting the history of Bishop Tube from an environmental standpoint. Every action DEP's taken, we've taken, it's very comprehensive and to the point. If anybody doesn't know anything about Bishop Tube, reading those 5 pages, you'll be fully informed. Yeah.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Barb, for the question. G, ratify actions signing new national opioid settlement with Teva, Allergen, CVS, Walgreens, and the Walmart participation package. And I'm assuming we do not receive any money for that, correct?
It's similar to, we all believe it's going to be very similar to the prior opioid settlement with the other distributors that occurred, I think it was last year. Was it 2022? Yeah, I think it was 2022, where most of the money is going to end up with the Attorney General's office, and they're going to send it out. They haven't, the Attorney General has not put up on their website yet what their proposed order is going to be, the way it trickles down, but the same thing's going to apply as applied in the other national settlement is the money is to be used for fighting the opioid epidemic. So if it trickled down here, it might be that we got the Narcan shots, things of that nature. It would be limited to fighting the opioid epidemic. The Chester County does have on their some information on their website about what they're doing with the 2022 through their drug and alcohol office, what they're going to do with that money. Okay. Educational programs, things like that.
Okay. Moving on to H, approve the purchase of 2 Motorola radios for the firehouse in the amount of $13,039.28. Ratify the sale of the tank, the 2014 Dodge truck for $14,000. We can get it back for $7,000. Do you want me to? You sure? That was home away from home for Chris. Ratify the purchase of the 2023 Dodge Durango from New Holland Auto in the amount of $43,791 without our new East Whiteland Township logo on it. Consider approval to enter into agreement with Workspace for permission to park vehicles on One County View Road property for the summer concert series and movie night in the Valley Creek Park. Consider approval to enter into an agreement for the township identification with Locust Lane Brewery to permit sales of alcohol at Summer Concert Series and the movie night in the Valley Creek Park. And finally, consider waiver of Township Park policy related to alcohol for Summer Concert Series and movie night in the Valley Creek Park. Any specific questions on those? If not, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And do we have any other business? Without any, meeting is adjourned.